Good morning. We're going to get started with our media availabilities here at Dover International Speedway in advance of Sunday's Apache Warrior 400 presented by Lucas Oil. Sunday's race will be the final race in the opening round of the playoffs. We will cut it down to 12 drivers for the next round after Sunday's race. Right now we are joined by Jamie McMurray, driver of the number 1 Gear Wrench Chevrolet. Jamie currently sits 11th on the playoffs leaderboard, has 9 points up on the cutoff line. Jamie, why don't you just talk to us a little bit about the intensity and what you need to do to stay in that transfer position?
Yeah, I feel somewhat good about the position that we're in, just because we ran pretty good here in the spring, and the cars that we're racing for that cutoff spot, I feel like we've run better than most of the year, and ran better than most of them here in the spring. So I think if we have a uneventful race without any issues, that we should be fine this weekend.
All right, we'll open up to questions for Jamie. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic. We'll start up front with Claire.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. In the transfer spot, to come into this racetrack, what about this racetrack makes it really difficult to be facing that and the cutoff at this particular track?
I don't think anything sticks out at Dover. The one thing when I think about coming here, even though it's a mile racetrack, it's really fast. It only takes 22 seconds, I think, to go around here. And this is one of those tracks that if you have to restart at the back, the leaders come really quick. It seems like you run like 15 or 20 laps, and all of a sudden the leaders are already there, starting to lap cars. So it's just one of those places that, man, if your car's good, it's a lot of fun, and if you get just a little bit off, it's maybe one of the toughest tracks that we go to try to stay in front of the leader, or to try to maintain your position. So it's really fast, and the surface of the track, it doesn't have bumps like we talk about at Charlotte or at Chicago or Pocono. It's just those little expansion joints, and they're just all the way around the racetrack. And when the air pressure builds up in the tires, it's a really hard track to get a hold of.
Kyle McFadden, theracingexperts.com. Jamie, considering Kyle Larson's consistent speed this year, do you ever ask yourself, where can we get some of that, or just like a sliver of that?
What do you say? Yeah, I'd love to have some of that. That would be awesome. The Kyle, those guys have just been on a roll. It seems like every type track that we've went to this year, they just have had a lot of speed, and they're having the kind of year that everything they change in their car seems to make it faster, and it just doesn't go that way every single weekend for everybody else. But the 42 and the 78 have had basically been the fastest two cars all year long, and certainly I wish that you could just put exactly the setup that they have in, and have that same speed, but it just it doesn't work that way. And it's the same for all the teams. When you look at I think the 18 has been basically the best car at Gibbs all year long, and if you go and you ask those other guys, why, it's just that things, some years go better for some teams than others, and it's not as easy as just putting in the exact setup and getting the same result.
We'll go to Nate and then Holly.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Jamie, obviously the pressure of a cutoff race is fairly unique, but I would think for yourself, you're somewhat accustomed to it. You've been through it here the last couple of years. You've been through it at Richmond numerous times, going back like more than a decade. Does that give you a little bit of an edge that you kind of know maybe a little bit more to expect because you've probably been through it more than anybody else?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's. I mean, for the most part, if you this year or last year, every race was a cutoff race. I feel like you're waiting to see if when you go to the plate races, is there going to be a first time winner, and then when we get closer to Richmond, every week you're kind of racing. This year it was Matt and Chase and Clint and Eric Jones there towards the end. I mean, every week is like that, and I don't really view today or this weekend differently than I have the last. I mean, any of the races this year. It's just there's not a lot you can do about it, and I try really hard every weekend you just go out and you do your best. And sometimes cautions fall your way. Sometimes they don't. Last weekend, the car got into me on one of the last restarts, and I don't think it was anything intentional, but it kind of it barely knocked the quarter panel in on the tire, and I was, concerned of that tire blowing out if we stayed on the track, and we lost, 6 or 8 spots because of that, and had to pit. Things like that you can't control. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't feel like. So I don't really view this weekend as more pressure. I don't even look at it as a cutoff race. I just view it as the next race, and go out and do the best you can.
Go to Holly.
Is this on? Yes.
Kind of.
You kind of answered what I was going to ask, which was it's the $1 million question we'll ask after each of these, but how do you anticipate the racing to be tomorrow or Sunday, because it is a cutoff race? Do you kind of go into it expecting people to be a little bit more antsy than normal, or how do you anticipate?
Well, it's going to be different. I've been in this position the last 2 years at this track, and it's going to be different this year because in the years past, I think it was 2 years ago with Dale Jr., I knew that all I had to do, if Harvick won the race, I knew for the last 200 laps that all I had to do was outrun Dale Jr. If I finished in front of him, then I won or I advanced. If he finished in front of me, he advanced. It's different this year because people can get stage points throughout the race, and so it's not as easy as I don't know how many points I'm ahead of the guys behind me, but it's not as easy as just knowing that you need to be X amount of positions in front or behind somebody, because if you finish second or third in a stage earlier in the race, that completely changes the points. And so you're going to be dependent on the team to kind of fill you in, like if you have to have another position, or if someone is pressuring you, that you can maybe give up that position and not get wrecked. It's going to be a little bit different this year just because the stage points are going to make it a little more confusing.
Any final questions for Jamie? We'll go to Lee.
SpencerMotorsport.com. A lot of drivers have talked about if you blink here, something can go crazy. Is this a track where your absolute full attention is needed just every second that you're on the racetrack?
I think it's more in qualifying trim and maybe the first 10 laps of a run, because the pace does slow down here, and it honestly doesn't have to slow down a lot to make it feel quite a bit slower. The difference, when we pull out this morning from running, I don't know the exact lap time, but a 22-second lap time to like a 21:50 is significant inside the car. It feels way faster only running that little bit quicker. So once you get in the race and the pace starts slowing down, and actually on race day the pace slows down quite a bit anyway, it's not quite as bad, but certainly qualifying here, it's one of those places that I feel like overdriving the car is actually faster, and you have to really commit to the corners, and I don't know that without taking a lap around here in a car that you guys can appreciate how much lower the corners are than the straightaways. And when you go into turn 3 and turn 1, it literally feels like you kind of fall down in a hole, which is a horrific feeling. Even though you have all this banking to hold the car up, once you land, that feeling of kind of going down in the hole on the entry makes the back feel even lighter. We fight loose end every single weekend. That's everybody in this sport. You fight loose end, because if you don't, then the car doesn't turn good enough in the middle. And that's just magnified here. And then when you add those little bumps that, we talk about, it's a challenging track, and it's certainly everyone's eyeballs are huge in qualifying trim here because it takes a big commitment.
Go back to Nate.
Jamie, knowing that, as you said, the stage points add another layer to this, have you developed, the last 2 years, developed a system for how much you want the team to tell you where the other guys are running around you, and what the point situation is, and will it change anyway this year with the stage points dynamic?
Yeah, so they don't, even at Richmond, I didn't know that Matt was out of the race at Richmond. My spotter had come on and said that the 20 he made the comment like the 20 knocked his grill in or something, but Matt's car at Richmond actually had that, I don't know, like a one-off paint scheme on it, I think, and so it's not like he was in the DeWalt car where you recognize that car on the racetrack. And honestly, I'd kind of forgot about Matt, and I didn't really pay attention on the restarts as to where he was running at. And then when the caution came out with like 2 laps to go, they gave me, we had all those green flag runs there too, so it's kind of hard to get updated when you have such long green flag runs. But on that last restart, they were like, look, you're running 14th. If we have a first time winner, you need to finish at least 18th, and these are the cars you're racing. And then they said something about the 20 was out, and so I didn't really know what was going on. To me, the only time knowing that, though, that really makes a difference is if someone is pressuring you in the closing laps and you don't need that position, but you're, maybe if you've made this guy mad earlier in the race or earlier in the year, and you think that there could be, they might get into you and cause you not, to have a DNF, then maybe you let somebody go in a position like that. You don't, keep chopping them off on entry. But otherwise, you race as hard as every single lap you race as hard as you can. Every single restart you get everything you can. So there's really nothing you can do about it.
Go to Mark.
Hi, Jamie. Mark Schwartz with ESPN. On a different topic, I was wondering what your reaction was when you saw all the images this last weekend of NFL players and owners and how they behaved during the anthem and the flag. And do you think that the expectations for your sport are any different than any of the other professional sports in terms of how you have to act during the flag or the anthem?
Yeah, look, I came in here to talk about our weekend's racing and not to discuss that, so I don't really have a comment.
All right, Jamie. Well, thanks for joining us. Good luck on Sunday.